Howdy, everybody. Today is Tuesday, January 28th, 2025, and the time is 6 p.m. We're here for the regular session of the Coppell City Council. We do have a quorum present, so I'm calling the meeting to order. We will be convening into executive session in the first floor conference room. At the end of the executive session, I'll come back out and announce work session, at which time the public will be invited and encouraged to join us. Thank you very much. Howdy, everybody. We've adjourned from executive session at 6:21 and we'll be entering into work session in the first floor conference room. The time is 6:22. The public is invited and welcome to join us. Thank you very much.
Not my fault. Some kind of something in it. But I don't know if they would actually put real alcohol in it. They just have like the essence. I'm just glad I sliced off a small slice.
All right, the time is 6:24. We're here for work session. We got 3 agenda items. The first one is discussion regarding our agenda. We have a relatively light evening. Is there any, we did have one question on consent. Is there any other questions, or did anybody need a follow-up on that? All right, moving on. The next one is discussion regarding the ADA technology and other updates to the council chambers. You don't look like Mindy. I'm sorry. It does say Kent. I'm sorry.
Sounds like Kent.
I'm sitting on this. I don't know anything.
Hold on. I'm going to go back and look at my agenda. Maybe you just had a small heart.
The last thing I saw was, I was looking under consent agenda.
That's when you're supposed to get all my updates to the council.
All right, ADA stuff.
Yes. All right. Good evening, Mayor. Thank you. Okay, perfect. So let me start off by saying that council has not seen this or heard this before, and as such, this is really a question for council. What I'm proposing, do you want staff to proceed what I'm presenting? So that'll make more sense as I get into it, but that's going to be the ask is, does council want us to proceed with these improvements? So, as you're aware, Town Center and council chambers are about 40 years old, and they've been maintained and they've evolved over time. But the council chambers does have some challenges in its current state, and I'll walk through some of those challenges and concerns. This concept would complete some one-time improvements. So we've talked about one-time expenditures. So one-time improvements to address some of those challenges. I'm going to walk through some of those challenges, as well as just a conceptual proposal, if you will, to address those challenges and concerns. And I will say we've identified one-time funding in our PEG fund, which is the Public Educational and Government Channel Fund, IMF, and ADA funding, as well as some fund balance to cover the costs if we go this direction. So just broadly, this is kind of a fisheye view of the council chambers. The challenges and concepts fall into three main areas. The first is ADA and code concerns, or code deficiencies. The second is audience experience and participation. And the third is lagging technology, particularly regarding AV equipment in council chambers. So the focus of this presentation is to present some options to address those items. Okay, here's 4 photos. I'm just going to work kind of left to right across the top and then the bottom. We've got a lot of circles and arrows, and so I'm just going to jump right in. The top left is to really highlight the ADA deficiencies in this particular corner. So council's aware we have one ramp that gets you from the entry to council chambers down to the podium level. That ramp does not meet ADA standards. It has a landing, but the landing where you turn, that 90-degree turn, is not large enough. So if there weren't seats in the way, and if there wasn't the raised, what I call the raised curb, then solving that might be relatively easy. But there are some real grade challenges with that particular part of the council chambers. On top of that, the railing along the wall and the railing along the steps and the dais level, those are also not ADA compliant or code compliant. Same goes for the railing on the other side of the council chambers that are code compliant. Issues. So if I move over, the raised curb area is a tripping hazard. And I checked, and to our knowledge, nobody's ever filed a claim for getting injured after tripping, but I have personally tripped and stumbled over that. So I know it's a tripping hazard. It is fairly obvious to see. The third is to highlight the drop in elevation from the dais down to the podium. So if you look at the floor level of where the council sits, right, the dais floor level, down to the podium floor level, that's a 30-inch drop. And so what you're going to see is a concept that would reduce that drop by half. So bring it to about a 15-inch drop. So then the last photo is really highlighting all of the projectors, the old lights, the speakers, the cameras that we have. All of that is 10 plus years old. In fact, we started to replace a lot of the cameras a couple of years ago and decided to pause that. But we have in current budget in our PEG fund $200,000 to update the audiovisual technology in the council chambers with the goal of improving the experience for the people who watch it on TV. And I don't know what that viewership is, but that PEG fund is specifically for that purpose, and it is restricted to that purpose. So we can't use it outside of operating and upgrading that function. So I've covered what I call the pit-like design, where the podium, you're kind of sitting down in the pit. The other thing that I will highlight, one of the arrows in the bottom, is pointing to the seats. Those seats are, as far as I'm aware, those are original to the council chambers. You know, they're basically old classroom kind of seating with the rotate up desk. My belief is that those were picked at a time where this needed to be a multi-use facility where you did a lot of training, you had council, lots of different types of meetings. The proposal that you'll see, or the concept, would be to replace those with more theater type seating, which is what you what you see at the Arts Center. Before I move on, any questions?
Yeah, we have several. So I'm first.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So when we upgraded the experience, and I thought it was in 2016, we added in significantly brighter lights to highlight the dais. We put in rotating cameras to collect different views. I thought we upgraded all the equipment at that time.
Which was almost 10 years ago.
Shit.
According to Josh, I mean, we were walking in, and he's like, "Yeah, these are 10 years old
I'm sorry.
now."
I didn't mean to say that.
Yeah, these are all the technology. Some of what's mounted on the ceiling is not even used. Some of the old lighting. So,
Is it really that old?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I
Okay,
have no
so second point, understand all the points. What about the center aisle? If we talk about people tripping, man, I've seen so many people.
the concept. So, should I go ahead and show the concept, and then that may address some of the questions?
If you're going to address it, let's go ahead and get Jim and then Kevin.
So when you say a 30-inch drop, you're saying from where the floor that our feet is on to the bottom of that area?
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Kevin?
I just had a question, just for just pure ignorance. I mean, what about the railings and such is not code compliant now? I'm just curious.
Right.
Maybe.
No, it's, so, okay, there's there's two separate standards. One is ADA. So the ADA, the ramp on the wall has to extend through the landing area.
Oh, that I'm
and
aware
it
of.
stops. The railing along the stairs, the gaps between the rail and the glass are too
okay.
large.
Mhm.
And then the gaps between the glass and the stairs are also too large.
Got it.
So that, I think I don't remember what the standard is. One is 4 inches and one is 6 inches.
Okay.
But it's, Stephen walked it and sent me, honestly, I wasn't sure if it would meet the standards. I mean, I know it's rickety
Mhm.
and we can't get parts for it, which is one of the challenges. But also where those railings end, if it's like say at the bottom of the stairs, those have to extend another foot and then they have to finish either at the support or at the ground.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of detail in it, but right. Yeah.
Well, and I'll just also comment that, so I remember when I was elected and sworn in, my son had a broken leg at the time, and he was in a wheelchair, and I remember bringing him down that ramp when we were being sworn, and that thing is, I'm 100% in agreement, that thing is way outdated. It was difficult to cut that corner because he had his leg propped up, and so that made it even worse to get him around the corner. So I mean, I'm all, you have my attention.
Yeah, I am a little bit confused on the railing not meeting requirements, because as my recollection is 30 inches or less requires a guard rail. Now those don't meet the requirements for a guard rail because they have openings larger than 4 inches. So, I mean, that's kind of one of the minor issues. But the handrail extensions, for ADA compliance, we definitely should be meeting those requirements. I actually have talked with an architect who specializes in city council chambers and designs of city halls.
Wow.
And they do them all over the state. They are the expert. And he actually commented because he had been here before, and he said, "Yeah, how do you feel up on that dais?" And I said, "Well, it is a little awkward." And he said, "Well, we just don't do it like that anymore. I mean, it's just
Because it's too hot.
Because it's
yes,
old.
yes, it's too old." So I mean, I do because I don't like that feeling of separation so
Agreed.
much.
Me too.
But you do need, some incline, and it would be probably the same one that we've got over at the Performing Arts Center, because that provides accessibility.
All right,
down to the front.
I am gonna go ahead and
Yeah.
go to the next slide. I've been holding off, but this will address some of the
Yeah.
comments that we've heard. Okay, so just, if you're focusing on, please focus on the right side of the slide. And so just to orient you, I've got at grade labeled on all of the white area, okay? That is all it would be at the same grade. So as you walk into the door, you could walk to the left or the right without going down and then coming back up to get to the council dais area. Okay, so everything in white is at the same elevation. Everything in yellow is at that gentle slope that Councilmember Hill mentioned. And that is an ADA compliant slope. So on the left side, you would have an ADA ramp. Down the middle, you would also have an ADA compliant ramp. And those meet the standards because of the width that's being provided. On the right side, we're only providing basically an access walkway. So you don't have to walk across or kind of shuffle your way across all those seats. That is not an ADA accessible area, but it is access for folks who are able-bodied. And then the bottom level, the podium level, as I have it labeled, is 14.5 inches higher than the current podium level. So again, you're basically cutting in half the drop between the council dais floor and the existing podium floor. So that is, now seats right now, this layout shows 3 fewer seats than we have today, but we have space to add a few seats here and there to get those numbers matched up. Although I don't remember having a completely full council chambers, at least not since I've been here. I mean, it happens, but anyway, we can make those numbers work. All of the railing would obviously be replaced. Everything would be redone to code, ADA standards. And then, so on the left side is a very kind of, we'll call it preliminary 3D rendering of the plan view on the right. So it shows the railing, it shows the council dais, it shows that the lower podium level, but you can see just how the seating level it's much more kind of, there's less of a drop down to the seats than there is today. So I'm going to go to the next slide. And these are very preliminary. Again, all we did was engage with the architect that's doing all the safety improvement design in Town Center, just so we could see how would we even address these concerns. How do we solve this ADA problem? How do we solve code problems? So here's some concepts on interior finishes. On the left side is a lighting scheme where the light is much more distributed. So you don't have these, rectangular heavy areas. It's just distributed more throughout the space. The paint doesn't change under this scheme. So the existing blue, the existing white would remain. This is an example of auditorium or stadium seating similar to what we have at the Arts Center. They're showing glass and wood railing. Again, mimicking more what we have in the atrium area where you have natural wood and less of grass. And then the carpet would be less of a pattern, so it would be more of a solid type carpet. I think that's, and if we're working and raising the floor, we'll need to reface the dais, and they're just showing a laminate option here. Obviously, we can bring back material boards in the future if we decide to move forward, if the council decides to move forward. Let's see, make sure.
I vote for wood.
So again, just to kind of recap, this is a really feasibility level presentation, and it's to present the options to move forward. We do have funding sources, one-time funding sources. I do not have an estimate on this because it's so preliminary, but with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Kevin?
First of all, I just want to say, in looking at the, could you show the one, like not that one, yes, yeah, okay. Just on this layout on the right, I love the idea of having the main aisle be an ADA ramp. And honestly, like, just for like the dignity to be able to go down the middle just like everyone else and make sure that's accessible, I love that change. I think that that's fantastic. I have long felt that I feel like I tower over people sitting at the dais as it sits right now, so I love the idea of bringing the floor up. And you know, I still think there still needs to be able, so everyone can see and hear clearly and stuff like that, but I like reducing that space. I would be in favor of moving forward with, you know, this project in terms of like exploring more cost and stuff. And is this going to be in conjunction with the other improvements of Town Center? Is the idea to try to get that along the same timeline, or is this a completely separate project from? And that's fine. I'm just more curious on that.
It would be a separate project,
Okay.
and we would, you know,
take some more time.
Understood.
we would have to start and go through an entire design process for this, and recognizing the disruption to council business. I mean, we would target times when there's fewer meetings, but there's clearly is going to be some disruption if we go forward.
I would also advise, I know you said we're 3 seats short on this particular drawing. I would like to see us maintain our seating, or if there's a way to potentially improve. I understand very preliminary on that, but there have been times when the chambers have been full, so if we can provide some additional seating, I understand within the scope of.
I'm going to jump in, Jim, and I apologize. I was on board with Kevin's comment on maintaining the seating. The question is, the upper left-hand side ADA ramp, is that required by code? Do you have to have 2 accessible ramps?
No, you don't. It was.
So if you make that a seating access, like on the right-hand side, there's your seats.
Just,
It's a valid point.
Right.
yeah. But my guidance would be, if there's a way to increase seating in there, I would prefer to see an option like that. So everything else I really like, and I would love to see us maybe take steps towards this.
I will say, I'm not sure it's clear, and I did not state it. Similar to the Arts Center, under this design, the seats are on the slope.
Yeah, yes.
So there's no step down like there is today for each row of seats. It's just a gentle slope. Every seat is on the slope.
Okay. Jim?
Yeah, you know, I don't know if we ever had a complaint or not, but I've got to think there have been some people who've been frustrated by lack of accessibility, and I think we definitely ought to correct that. So I'm fully in favor of doing this.
Don?
Well, I didn't want to talk. I was just saying I'm in favor of feasibility. We need to find out what this would cost and what would be it
Okay.
entail, so I'm in favor.
Thank you, Mayor. And I don't know if there was a discussion.
So no, you go first, but I just wanted to make sure he saw that Mark and I had our hands up for a while. Thank you, Mayor. Go ahead, Ramesh.
I'm just trying to catch up on any discussions that may have happened on this topic before I came on the council. Was there ever a plan to update this building? What I'm trying to see is, if we do this and then 2 years down the road, if we decide to change the building.
The building on the whole, or, well, so no, there's never been, that I'm aware of, a discussion of doing a full update of the building. What we are doing is over time working through the ADA deficiencies that were identified in the transition plan.
And keep in mind that he mentioned it, but maybe there is a security update that's going to be going through, that's going to change the foyers considerably.
Okay.
So what the building maintenance, the philosophy behind the building maintenance is, let's keep the building up to date as we move forward, and we don't do a single great overhaul, but we do renovations to sections at a time. When was the last time we did I mean, it was probably 10 years ago now, but it seemed like it was just last year that we did a fairly major refresh of the lobby and the council chambers.
Thank you.
Brianna.
Hey, Ken, so I completely agree. I think, well, I remember the seating that we have with the desk was because we didn't have the training center. And so I know now the fire station training center serves that purpose for the most part. So I actually like not having those there. I think it upgrades the look and feel and accessibility of the seating. I do agree with Kevin on seeing if we can get to that number on the seats. The other thing I was gonna ask was, in the rendering that you have as far as concept A, we didn't talk about the upgrades to technology, and there's also currently we've got the podium for people to stand right in the middle. Is the idea that will remain, and then just update cameras and mics, and because it's sometimes hard to hear
Correct.
people.
Right, and that's a whole separate design, quite honestly. Okay. I mean, there's the architectural piece. What we want to do is clean up the ceiling, because there's so many things hanging down that were just added over time. Clean the ceiling up, improve the lighting, increase cameras, improve the audio, and that'll be a whole design that goes along with this. But Josh and I were talking about it yesterday, and you know, all these cameras that are all pan, tilt, zoom, but if you have the right numbers of cameras aimed in the right areas, maybe the camera technology is a little different. You know, I was doing some research about kind of the latest recommendations, and they're talking about small microphones for each council member so that you are hearing at a low volume, but it's directed right at you. So when someone is speaking, you can hear it very clearly. So all those types of newer technologies are absolutely on the table. You know, I think I mentioned that replacing the projector with a direct feed monitors or screens on the walls. So like the large LED screens, that type would be the direction to try to get.
And I do like, and just real quick to wrap that up, I do like the middle ramp also, because I have seen people struggle to go down or even to come up, and I'm curious, I mean, I'm sure we've had people who probably choose not to even speak, right, because they don't want to have to take those steps. So whatever we can do to make it ADA compliant and accessible for everybody, I'm in favor.
And to answer your question, I did not answer on the podium. We are looking at, so the podium is in two pieces. You have the podium and then you have the side table. We're looking at, do we need the side table? Is there a different way to address if somebody brings a hard copy? Those are very bulky, and there's, you know, they're kind of in the way when you're down making a proclamation. And so we're looking at that as part of this project as well.
Thank you.
And there's a lot of options out there.
Thank you.
See, Mark?
Yeah, so I'm in agreement with Kevin. We're trying to maintain that seat count. I think that center aisle is a little too gracious. Looks like it's 6 feet. It probably doesn't need to be any more than 5. And then the one that says 88 ramp over there on at the top only needs to be 36 inches wide. So I mean, I think we can still maintain the seat count we have. Also, when you start looking at seating, they typically come in a range between 19 and 22 inches. I think I would gravitate more to the wider seat, just for comfort. Now, you mix in some narrow ones to sometimes adjust the sight lines so you're not looking right at someone's head directly in front of you, so I can understand that. But I think if we're going to go that route, we ought to try to make it comfortable. When I've looked at that next slide, those seats look horrible and terrible. I would never specify those. I question the lighting. I think it should be like Zumtobel direct lighting, so you get the ambient lighting that lights up the whole space, as opposed to linear strips that just overpower you with light. That scattered light is much better. I know we're just starting, and this is all conceptual, but I want to kind of get that out there. And then the other thing, I think getting rid of these single steps is crucial. I mean, I'm surprised we haven't had a lawsuit, and that's kind of just your basic design. Single steps are a no-no. I mean, they should be in groups of 3, because otherwise people tend to trip over them. So, and the whole accessibility issue is a big deal, and I think we need to be proponents of that. We shouldn't have put it off this long. So I think we get it done.
Jim?
My only other question was, given the economy of scale, if we're going to redo the technology in there, why don't we redo it the same way in here?
I thought we just did.
We have upgraded, but yes, we can look at the cameras. That screen is brand new.
Okay, okay.
That one is not. Right. But we can look at, I mean, yes, we can look at that.
This was upgraded a little bit more recently than the chambers.
Yeah.
Mr. Hill remembers quite a bit of that.
Yeah, it was a big push of mine to have.
All right, Pichu?
Yeah, can you please go back to the first slide? The one next to you, yeah. So the circles that you have, I'm asking this question from my understanding. So you said today we are not up to par with the code and non-compliance, ADA.
Correct.
When we built this, the building we were, right? When did we non-compliant? What year?
The ADA.
I think the ADA was in effect
2010.
94 or something.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was 86 is when it was open, I think.
85.
1994 was the next
Or
one,
96 or something.
and then 20.
So why didn't we discuss this type of changes earlier? I'm trying to understand this.
I mean, I wasn't here when that ramp was, I don't know if that was part of the original design. I don't know if anybody remembers if that ramp was in the original council chambers. I mean, I worked here in the late 90s. I do not remember. I went back and looked at video. In 2009, it was there. So I know 16 years ago, that ramp was there. But the standards change over time, and they get interpreted differently, and then they modify them, right? So maybe the original plan was you just have to have a landing. But now that landing has to be 60 inches square, and that isn't, right? And so, I mean, I give full, whoever designed it then, I'm sure they designed it to the standards that were in place at that time. And we've done the ADA transition plan to identify where we're short.
Okay, can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So the podium that you are suggesting is in the middle of the room?
So
For the residents to stand and speak to
the podium itself would be kind of right in the middle of the orange area, where it is today.
Okay, I've seen some places, they put it on the side, so the people who are sitting on the gallery can see them, and also council can see them from a different view, you know what I mean? Today when they stand, they're facing the council, and whoever's sitting on the seat, they cannot see them, the person who's speaking to us. So that's a suggestion that I have.
I think they're speaking, when you come to speak to the council, you're speaking to the council. And if you put it off to the side, I've seen council chambers like that.
Yeah.
You're going to disadvantage some of your council members not be able to see down where that person's speaking. I think, I can't remember which city council in the area does it that way, but it's.
School board is.
Yeah, school board, if you look at the,
Exactly.
Coppell ISD has it to
So
the
you're like
side.
behind,
Yeah, that's because they have no room.
sort of like behind the window.
No, there are other city council.
Yeah, when you said that, that's what I thought of was the school board.
So I heard an overwhelming yes, let's proceed forward with the study.
You bet.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
We
you.
will,
And
we will
thank you for
start
bringing
design.
this, thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Yeah, thank you, Ken.
You know, it's funny, you don't even think about, you just get used to the chamber, and you don't even think about how far out of compliance it is, and I just know that that center walkway just, I see some of the people coming out to talk to us, and it scares me.
Well, and it's totally alien to any normal human gait.
Especially short.
It's like you get your, you got two steps in, all, no, there's this, no, I never can get in a rhythm going down those stairs.
Was that an architectural? Once upon a
So
time?
you can ask Mark, there's actually a recommended
Yeah.
Was that
rise
real
or
common?
run for stairways,
For an era.
and it's like 13 to 11 or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you follow that, then it's normal for most people. What is it? I don't remember where I got that number from.
3T plus
Yeah,
11 equals, I
Something.
forget what
You
it
put
was.
letters and numbers and you lost me.
Yeah. It's
so anyway, all right.
Yeah,
It's
we got
easy just to
focus
remember.
coming in, you know.
7-11.
Then as soon as I get through all that, then it's like I've got to get up the stairs. It's just like I'm on some kind of game show.
All right, thank you very much, Kent.
They're going to bitch me at the top. It's-
Item number 3 is follow-up from the winter retreat. I just wanted to thank everyone here for the very, very open and candid conversations that we had. We had been needing that conversation on all 3 points for some time. We gave very clear direction going forward with the Old Town discussion. The staff has already started their 5-year plan. Some groups started today, so that's already kicked off. The budget discussion was very good. It's given Mike and his team a goal and a benchmark to start from. The 2040, good, now that we have a good foundation and understand what we're doing, I really appreciate everybody's time. I want you to know that I was exhausted after Saturday. That completely wore me out. I got home and I felt like a zombie for the rest of the day. And I had my daughter's birthday party that night. It was a good day, but man, it was exhausting, which I think tells me that we put a lot of energy into it. So, thank you very much. Mike, did you have any?
No,
Follow-up?
the only question is, since Saturday, if you've had some other thoughts or anything, this was part of the opportunity. This is what we typically do. It's like, okay, I thought about this, and just make a note and those type of things. I will say that we did come up with a date, and you may be the only one that's, and I was wanting to talk to you about it, but May 6th, which is the first Tuesday in May. So we'll treat that like a 5th Tuesday, but that'll be our follow-up, primarily talking about 2040 and the budget and what's happened at the legislative session. So it's going to be a really, defined conversation.
May 6th.
May 6th, it's a Tuesday night. Ashley will send out the.
So that's back-to-back weeks though, right?
It would be, yeah.
Well, I
So
mean,
that just
for
frees
3
up the
weeks in a row.
Saturdays. There's a possibility we don't have a 5th Tuesday. Is that what you're asking?
It's
So
Tuesday.
it's really, if we have a 5th Tuesday, then we don't have May 6th. If we don't have a 5th Tuesday, we have May 6th. So that's, as we're marching along, I just wanted y'all to have that date just in case. Right? Because y'all talked about, sometimes, do we need the 5th Tuesday? Do we not need it? So it's really going to be up to y'all and where we are in timing.
Per Mike's discussion, anybody have any thoughts after Saturday?
I thought it was really productive. I really enjoyed it.
It was productive, very productive.
And when we're talking about perhaps an executive session.
Yes, sir. We will have an executive session at the February 11th meeting, I think.
Yes.
That's the next council meeting, and there's some things that some council members have asked that need to be able to be discussed in executive session as it relates to economic development.
I thought I saw a hand down there.
Mike, remind me when you do your staff retreat,
We will be doing it the following
your
week
director,
in May.
in May?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
scheduled the 14th, 15th, and 16th, or the 15th, 16th, and 17th, something like that. It must be the 14th, 15th, 16th.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's when we do that. So that's why we want to have your conversations before we go.
Okay. Because I was just gonna say, like, I would just encourage your team that if they at any point ever feel like we could do better on just providing additional clarity, especially even sometimes, like I look back at some of our goals and priorities sometimes, and those were written a long time ago, and we continue to, rate them and shuffle them, but if we need to provide any clarity and just have a meeting of the minds of like, what does a learning lab mean, right? Like, what is that, so that your staff's not having to guess, right, or assume, like, please feel free to do that and let us know wherever we can do a better job of providing clarity. Because I was thinking that too when I left, of like, I throw out the word hotspots a lot. And what I mean by hotspots and what staff might consider to be hotspots may have shifted over time and may be something different. And so maybe it's a good time to, and maybe that's that executive session, and I don't know when we're talking about economic development, but just thinking, that's just one example of, I walked away thinking I could do a better job of just clarifying when we say hotspots, are we all talking about the same areas?
Yeah, I kind of want to, I think I'm piggybacking a little bit on what you're saying, but I was kind of curious as to, so, Tracy sends out the sheet and we do the ratings and we set like, hey, here are the priorities that are important to us, and then staff starts to get to work on that. And then they start identifying projects and things like that. We're all familiar with that process. I know at the end of the year, we kind of get a, like, here's what we did, the work plan summary that was just recently sent out. Besides the work plan summary, is there any other type of feedback mechanism that we can get as council to say, like, hey, our team kind of came up with these ideas, this is what we kind of tossed out there, and these are the ones that were receptive as, like, hey, this is what we accomplished on the work plan. But maybe, like, these are ideas that, like, maybe council didn't support, whether it was, maybe didn't agree with the idea or didn't provide funding or anything like that, because I want to make sure that we're not just kind of going in circles. Like, we're rating this high, staff goes and does something, we don't like what they did, whether that was we didn't like the idea or we chose not to fund it or whatever, and then but we keep rating it high then the next year. And then at what point would staff maybe like start to run out of ideas or get frustrated or something like that? And I want to make sure that we are able to close any open feedback loops so we can work together. And obviously that conduit goes through you because we work with you through the staff. So does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
I don't know, like maybe Brianna's shaking her head, so I feel like we're connecting there, but I just want to make sure that we are serving the staff well to make sure that our direction is consistent, and if it's not consistent or if it's not the ideas that they are providing that we are happy with, that we're able to provide that clarity, as Brianna was talking about earlier, that you guys are giving us these ideas, but these are the ideas that we talked about when we talk about learning laboratory or whatever that is. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It does, and I'll give you a specific example from Saturday. When we talked about the neighborhoods, because y'all rated it at high, that's why I passed out the map. It's like, okay, tell us what you mean when you were filling that out. Is this what you meant or that what you meant? So when we come back to you in May, we'll have that kind of conversation before we go do anything. This is how we understood what you said. Is that correct? And if it's not correct, hopefully you'll let us know and say, no, and because we have time. We've changed the process as councils have changed. It was time to change the process to fit this council. So that we've done that. The other thing I will say is, help me. We are going to do the town hall. We're going to incorporate the 2040 process for the review in the town hall. And you're going to start the process on the 2040 review in the spring, right? I know they're two different things.
Yes.
But through that process, you'll also have, because we're going to be engaging y'all more into this process so that there's a better understanding. And so over the next, let's call it 4 months, hopefully we'll also be getting some of that feedback as well. Okay. That's what I was trying to get to. Yeah. Sorry, that's what I just want to make sure that the refresh was starting in the spring.
Well, one other small question I had was, since I've been on this council, I feel like the pillars that we have, we have the pillars that we will rate, and then we kind of have like the
goals,
the goals underneath that. Mm-hmm. Is part of this 2040 kind of reevaluation, are we going to maybe look at updating some of those goals or changing some of the goals? Or I feel like those have been relatively...
That's the purpose of the refresh.
Okay, just want making sure that was my understanding. I just wanted to make sure that I understood that correctly.
Yeah, it's really twofold. So the first piece of that is to share with the community all of the things that have been done in support of the plan. And then the second component of that effort is around getting an understanding from the community about whether the plan as it exists today still represents what the community wants to see.
Got it.
I like that.
In that process of sharing with the community what we have done, will we identify certain things, and maybe not present that to the community but will there be things identified that maybe were ideas that were brought up by staff, but maybe council chose not to move forward with, like whether through funding or through we don't, support that. And the reason why I ask is that there are people that have joined this council since 2040 has come about and maybe don't know some of the initiatives or some of the, maybe like council chose not to fund that. So we can all be kind of on the same page to make sure that moving forward in the next steps that if we are soliciting ideas from council about, well, what do you mean by this? And we say, well, what about this idea? And you're like, well, actually 5 years ago, we brought that to council and they said no. Is that a piece of that?
I'm not sure how to answer the question.
Multi-layered.
A lot of words.
I use a lot of words. I don't know if they're good words, but I use a lot.
I will try. So when the council, when we go through, bring forward various ideas related to the work plan, and the council adopts a work plan, that's what we produce, right? Whether it's Explore, and then after Explore, if council says, let's not pursue that anymore, I'll use it, housing rehab. We are not going to bring that idea forward anymore until the council says that that's a priority and we want to do that. If that's what you're asking, I don't know how to be able to, we'd have to figure out, go back and look at old plans and figure out, okay, did the council do something on that or not?
That's my question. Is there a bucket where housing rehab lands that says, you know what, we chose not to pursue that?
Once we've moved on, we move on.
Okay.
That doesn't mean, it's not difficult to go back and look at the last 5 years or 4 and see, okay, in the work plan, we said we do that, we did the exploration, and we tried it, and the council said, let's not do that anymore. That's not going to be an in-depth study. I was just going to be able to go back and look and see. And so I think we can. So I'm not going to say that we won't.
Mike, in that scenario, will it not automatically fall into the 5-year plan?
Not if we're not doing it anymore.
Okay.
If I understand your question, I'm just using the housing rehab. It's not going to show up again until you either rate it as a priority.
So if we decide we're never going to want to do this, then we would roll it off. But if we said not now, but maybe later, then it would go back with the 5-year plan, right?
No, we're not gonna put it in our 5-year plan. It doesn't show up again until the council says it's a priority.
Unless you tell them to go do something, whether that's study it, think about it, or look at it, it's not gonna be on their active,
Okay.
their work, nothing that they're gonna do toward it.
Okay.
Get you?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. One feedback I want to give you is, where I work, after the meeting, I write up a minutes, bullet points. These are the things we discussed in the meeting, and send the summary to everyone who attended the meeting. And if I missed anything, you can send it to me, I will add it. Something like that, after a council retreat, these are the things we did, and going forward, this will be a record for new council members who's coming in next year's retreat. So they have an idea of what are the things past council members discussed. And I'll give you an example. Last year's council mentioned that we put a hold on food truck, right?
No.
Yeah, I missed that. And so I'm saying that will refresh. Oh yeah, it was on the bullet point that Mike sent it to me. I just missed that, right? So that will help us for the future council members coming in. That could be done with any other thing, rolling ox, others that we have discussed.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Jim?
No worries. So I just want to cut like a complete 90-degree turn here. So, you know, when I was on PG, we every now and then we hear about like a gateway, the designated gateway to the community, and then every now and we hear about hot spots. Or do we actually have like a formal, you know, Sandy Lake Denton Tap, the 121 Freeport, that they're formal hot spots, you know, development zones? I mean, has that ever actually been
I'm
formalized?
only smiling because Mindy,
You are here.
yeah. Mindy, would you like to address that?
Can you present on that, please?
Tell us.
Just riff on that.
Years ago, there were identified hotspots. That term continues to be used, but all of those hotspots have been developed, the ones that were identified years ago.
Okay.
They have all been developed now, so we don't have an identified list of hotspots.
What about like certain areas, I won't name them in my mind because I could be wrong. Certain areas that we were thinking about encouraging redevelopment. And those would oftentimes also be referred to as a hotspot by people like me that don't know what we're talking about. So I'm just, and if we don't have them, my question is that something we want to revisit, you know, in terms of, you know, like Beltline Southwest or Denton Tap, that whole confusing, where two of the streets remain the same. Is that, you know, we looked at that banner, then we looked at one point like having all sorts of crazy stuff there, and then we did nothing. And I don't know, I'm just kind of, is that something that we want to kind of dust off as a concept? And
Yeah. Do you want to talk about what the plan is for the update of the comprehensive plan? For the land use?
Oh, what, do you
Yeah.
mean the comp plan?
Yeah.
Yes, so we will go, on your agenda tonight, is the financial analysis, basically, that will be in advance of the comp plan, and then it will help guide the discussions during the comp plan. So following the completion of that, then the comp plan update will kick off. Is that what?
Yes, and then during the comp plan process, the council and the community can have that direct input as far as redevelopment, gateways, whatever it is that this community says what the next iteration of Coppell looks like. So there is built in, and you see it in your fund balance walk forward and what they're doing tonight. So we are on the path. If you're patient, not when I say you, I don't mean you, I'm talking about if the community is patient.
I have no path.
Yeah, if the community is patient enough to go through that process. If there's a desire to move something faster and quicker related to some of these issues, we would just adjust accordingly.
So within the context of municipal planning, is like a gateway designation or a hotspot designation a term of art that carries some significance?
So I was going to have a follow-up question to that from Mindy.
Oh, okay, go
So
ahead.
some years ago, and I've already dated myself once, so I'm not going to do it again. We authorized the wayfaring signs at Sandy Lake Road and Denton Tap, the brick pavers in the center.
Okay.
Yes.
Was that part of that gateway plan?
No. That
No.
was just because of the, right, thank you.
Was what?
Beautification.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if that was what we were talking about or if it was something
Right,
different.
no.
The hotspots that were identified, and that's when I started here in 2005, there was a list of hotspots that I believe were identified by the Economic Development.
Right, that's kind of where I first got exposed to
Yes.
it.
And there were specific areas, vacant land at the time, that were a challenge to develop. And that's where I'm saying all of those have been developed now. So that original list of hotspots no longer exist unless those are still in your mind, need to be redeveloped. But that original list does not exist any longer.
So, yes and no, because at one point it was hotspots were undeveloped areas, but later through EcoDevo, hotspots became, and that's why I keep bringing it up, and I keep using that term, hotspots were then areas that we thought could utilize some refresh, some redevelopment, not redevelopment, maybe it is redevelopment. Where could there were some areas where we were like, maybe we could incentivize those landlords or landowners to kind of clean up what we consider to be some key intersections in our community. And I think you make a great point, Jim, that term hotspots continues to shift and morph. It means something different, because when I say hotspots, I don't mean the ones that weren't developed. I mean the ones that could utilize a refresh, and we talked about incentivizing them, and that came from EcoDevo. And so someday, I would love that to be part of our conversation, to redefine or talk about, when we say hotspots, what does that mean? And then, Mindy, you might be able to say, hey, if you're talking about this intersection, right? We've talked to them, we've encouraged them, and they're not willing to do anything for whatever reason. And so maybe we just need an update on those main areas. But when I say hotspots, they do not mean undeveloped locations. I mean areas where at the time we said we could probably find a way to help incentivize those landowners so that it's a better looking intersection.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that
Yeah.
list, so.
Well, we kind of
Yeah.
came up with the facade grants.
The site
Yes.
grants were in Old Town.
Oh, we didn't do them for like,
We didn't do them everywhere? Oh,
They were Old Town only.
okay, because I thought we did it on waves.
We again talked to them, but we did not develop a facade grant program for anywhere outside of Old Town.
Once again, I have no path.
so Mayor, could we, or maybe Mike and Mindy, can we at some point add this to our, maybe a work session or somewhere to just talk about what that means when we say hotspots?
I would, y'all, one of the pillars, I don't have it in front of me, the most recent update, number 5, and it's the business nodes, right? So we can translate this into the work plan. I'm saying I think so. I'll have to look at it and get back with you. But we may already have a vehicle to do that.
Okay, thank you.
But let's verify that tomorrow, and then we can talk about
Yeah.
for future discussion.
Thank you for your candid comments.
Sure.
All right. Anybody have anything else? Again, thank you very much for Saturday. It was really a good session, and it's going to, I think, work out well for us in the future.
I was
The time-
exhausted too.
Huh?
I was gonna say, I was exhausted too.
The time is 7:20, and we have recess from work session, and we will move into the regular session of the city council at 7:30.
All right.
This evening, for our invocation, we have Pranamya Shrinkant with the Allies Interfaith Group here to give the invocation, and then we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance, so please remain standing.
O God, as we gather, we call upon you to bless the congregation with your compassion and immeasurable love. Grant us wisdom as we are pursuing nothing else but your purpose for our lives to serve the community in the best possible way. Draw us closer to yourself if we get waved from the path of righteousness while we serve your people, as you are our unwavering guide, protector, and shield. May we open our minds so that we may receive your eternal wisdom, open our hearts so that we may receive your generous, abundant love, and open our spirits so that we may redirect ourselves in your generous guidance. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Item number 6 is our citizens' appearance. Did we have anybody sign up to speak?
No, sir.
Seeing none, we will skip over the reading of that and move on to item number 7, which is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is routine in nature and generally enacted in a single motion. These items have been previously and approved through the budget or past council actions. Any item may be pulled and considered separately. Full descriptions are available on the screen. Council, we have 3 items on consent. Do anybody have any questions or want to pull those for further discussion? Councilmember Carroll.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve item number 7.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilmember Walker. All in favor?
Walker, Hinojosa Smith, Carroll, Nevels, Prem Kumar, Matthew Hill in favor, none opposed, the motion carries.
Well, item number 8 is a city manager report with project updates, future agendas, and direction from work session. Mr. Land.
Mayor and Council, thank you. Update on a few projects. Magnolia Park Trail, the contractor has begun installing the bank stabilization for the pond. On Woodhurst, the project is substantially complete. Dart, the contractor, is continuing to working on the sidewalks and asphalt repairs at several of the intersections. Fire Station 5, the brick and stone as well as sheetrock is going up. Service Center, if you have, well, we were just out there Saturday. The contractor is performing subgrade work for the foundation. The Freeport Northwestern traffic signal, all the ADA ramps, sidewalks, and conduit have been installed. The signal poles and equipment should be arriving in the next few weeks. And the 635 U-turn, TxDOT has planned another overnight closure of the westbound lanes on 635 on Tuesday, February 4th from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. That is my report.
But we're making progress on the U-turn.
There is progress.
Good.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Item number 9 is mayor and council reports on recent and upcoming events. Connect with your neighbors, meet city officials, and learn how to strengthen your community at the Regional Neighborhood Summit on Saturday, February 15th from 8 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. at the Flower Mound Senior Center. This is hosted by the city of Coppell, the town of Flower Mound, and the city of Louisville. And the event will feature a variety of information sessions generated by local leaders and industry professionals. Topics include neighborhood safety, Tree Care 101, and the 8-Door Challenge, a program that teaches participants easy ways to get to know their neighbors. Registration and more information can be found at flowermound.gov/neighborhood summit. Item number 10 is council committee reports concerning items of community interest with and involvement with no council action or deliberation permitted. Item A is a report on the Carrollton Farmers Branch ISD and Louisville ISD with Councilmember Mark Hill.
Thank you, Mayor Mays. Let's start off with LISD, since we don't have one for CFB. So on December 9th, school board meeting, the Board of Trustees voted to enact a plan to retire 5 elementary schools, BBO and Creekside, Garden Ridge, Highland Village, and Pulsar, and then adjust campus boundaries in response to the ongoing budget challenges caused by declining enrollment and the state's legislature's failure to update school funding formulas to account for inflation. If you want to learn more, go to lisd.net/CEC. Go to lisd.net/TOY to see the full list of 2024-2025 nominees for Teacher of the Year. LISD and MLK of North Texas Committee hosted the 32nd annual MLK Day celebration at Marcus High, and over $9,000 was awarded to winners of the MLK art contest. The LISD STEM Academy program, a hands-on collaborative learning environment dedicated to teaching students science, technology, engineering, and math, is now accepting applications. Go to lisd.net/STEM. The district's annual HBCU College Fair will take place on Friday, February 21st at Hebron High School for juniors and seniors. This event provides students opportunity to meet with the representatives from HBCUs. Go to lisd.net/HBCU. As a reminder, LSID families now have access to the mobile app. The app gives families access to grades, attendance, lunches, bus routes, emergency notifications, and more. So go to the App Store and search Louisville ISD. And that is all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Items B and C are the report on Coppell ISD and then a report on the Coppell seniors by Mayor Pro Tem Kevin Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things for Coppell ISD. I reached out to Superintendent Brad Hunt for any notes that he wanted to for us to highlight. And the only thing that he sent back, he said he wanted me to, on behalf of him, thank the council again for supporting school safety with the city's help by fully funding the SROs. And he said it has made a significant difference. So he wanted me to pass that along to the council. And then I also wanted to highlight the fact that elections are going on for Coppell Independent School District. There are 3 seats up for election. Place 1, candidates that have filed are Lee Walker and Sherry Hill. Place 2, candidates that have filed are Jonathan Powers, Julie Waters, and Kevin Chaka. And place 3 is Anthony Hill, is the only one that has filed so far. Let's hear. Last day to file for a place for Coppell ISD is going to be February 14th at 5 p.m. I also want to highlight that this year there are no Coppell City Council elections. There will only be elections for school board for Coppell ISD. That is all I have for Coppell ISD, and then moving on to the seniors. Apologies, I'm trying to find my email. Here we go. All right, so I reached out to Senior Center Director Dylan Hernandez, and he wanted me to point out a couple things. So the Senior Center has started their once-a-month Saturday Trails program. So on January 25th, they saw 72 participants and received positive feedback about opening up on Saturday, which is not the norm at the Senior Center. So very excited to hear that was positively received by the attendees, and look forward to seeing what the attendance looks like moving forward. The fitness center at the Senior Center, they're going to be receiving their new cardio equipment and their new flooring. So they will be closed for a week to facilitate the work. and it's looking like that's going to come up in the first or second week of February. So we'll be on the lookout for more details about that. And their volunteer program is showing a lot of interest, especially after their presentation they did on the 17th. On February 14th, they're going to have Sweetheart Day at the Senior Center. And then February 20th will be their trip to Choctaw. So I know that they're looking forward to that. And just kind of as a side, just want to make sure everybody knows that we have our meeting that we do where we kind of give a city update. And that is typically, let's hear, Councilman, what is that?
Wednesday.
Third Wednesday of the month. I just wanted to remind everybody that on the council that you guys are invited to participate that. I know Councilmember Prem Kumar regularly joins me on that. We love having him there, but it is open to other council members to come visit and network with our amazing seniors. So that concludes my reports. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. And item number D is report on the Coppell Arts Center Foundation from Councilmember Jim Walker.
Thank you, Mayor Mays. The Coppell Arts Center Foundation is very pleased to announce their third gala, which is the large fundraiser that they have each year to support the Arts Center. This year it's called Rhapsody in the Deep Blue Sea, an evening of entertainment benefiting the Coppell Arts Center. It will be held starting at 7 p.m. on March 1, 2025. The tickets are on sale now through the Coppell Arts Center website. And please get your tickets quickly because it's going to be a very popular event and the tickets are going fast. Hope everyone can make it. Thank you.
Can you ad-lib a little bit on Friday night's concert?
Oh,
Kevin could.
yes, as a matter of fact, I could certainly riff on a little Leanne. So we had the annual meeting of the Arts Center Foundation this last Sunday afternoon, and I pointed out during my presentation that we've been entertained by the Commodores and Leon Rhymes all within a 12-month span. So I think the Arts Center has really just absolutely caught fire. It's really exceeded all expectations that I had. It's just doing so well. A lot of that is attributable to Janine Del Chiapo and her staff. She's absolutely just brilliant, the way she's handled it. And part of that creativity she brings to the table is the reason we got the Commodores and Leanne Rhymes, quite frankly. And then the Arts Center Foundation has really, found its groove. They're really doing just a wonderful job of supporting the Arts Center. And frankly, I think this council, the support that we've shown for the resident arts companies also has gone a long way. Because as we heard when we supported, 500 Southwestern and expanding that for their use, that's freed up additional opportunities for revenue generating at the Arts Center and additional opportunities for events there. So it really seems like, we're really well past the pandemic. The resident arts companies are doing fantastic. The Arts Center itself is doing fantastic, thanks to Janine and her team. And the Arts Center Foundation is really doing very well. So hopefully everyone that can will come to the Rhapsody in Blue fundraiser on March 1 and assist them in that charge.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Item number 11 is public service announcements concerning items of community interest with no council action or deliberation permitted. I have one item. The Coppell Lions Club will be hosting their annual pancake breakfast on Saturday, February 15th at 8 a.m. at the First United Methodist Church. Tickets are on sale and are available now, and the public is invited. Do we have any other public service announcements? You're more than welcome to contact the mayor for that. Okay. The question was, how do we buy tickets for the pancake breakfast? And contact any member of the Lions Club or the mayor, and I can certainly help you out. Seeing no other public service announcements, item number 12, there was no necessary action from the executive session. So therefore, there being no further business before this body, we're adjourned at 7:45 p.m.